No, I'm not getting my feet out yet. No. Listen, I have to edge the audience before I just whip my feet out. You know that, right? You understand that? Like, I'm just saying. So all right. So anyway, we need the full Jeff Holiday context in this, okay? I have lived in Portland many times. I live in Eugene, which is less than 2 hours south of Portland. Been to Portland many times, lived in Portland many times, lived in some of the roughest areas and some of the nicest areas of Portland. I know Portland inside out, backwards and forwards. I've been going to Portland to hang out since 1999 when I was still a teenager. And yeah, I know I've known the anarchist scene. I've known the gay scene. When I was like 19 years old, I was hanging out with drag queens at the local coffee shop. I mean, like I know Portland and I love Portland. It's a great city. Also, I know Carl. I've known Carl for a long time. We have not been friends for a long time, and Carl can also go fuck himself for, a myriad of different reasons. Mostly because he's a dishonest actor. I know Peter Boghossian. I have gone drinking with Peter Boghossian. I had a lot of respect for him, but I feel like he has embraced whole cloth into the political rhetoric, largely because, well, it gets him attention and money.
Yes!
Hey, thank you very much. Mickey, get to sub to Yummy Jackie. Thank you. And then I know Andy No. I've known Andy No for years. I worked for Andy No. It's true. I helped film quite a few talks when he was still over at Portland State University. It was through him that I met Peter Boghossian. It was through him that I met Dave Rubin, the Brett Weinstein and Heather Hare. Like I met all these people, right? The Google bro. What was that dude's name? Do you guys remember what that Google bro's name was? James Damore, I think it was. I met him. Weird guy. And so Andy and I are familiar with each other. I worked for him briefly, and his accent is fake. It is fucking fake. Fucking fake. When nobody else is around, he does not have the accent. Especially when he gets drunk, he sounds like a Californian, like, valley girl, okay? And he's very flirty. I won't go into details from that. But that being said, all the context, all the cards on the table, let's watch this, I'm sure, fascinating stream.
Welcome to this wonderful impromptu interview that I'm going to be doing with Andy No and Peter Boghossian to Portland exiles. So I suppose we'll be talking about Portland. Right, so just as a quick thing, are you both Portland born and bred, are you?
I'm not.
I am.
You are?
I
Okay.
am.
No, I moved there.
Which, interesting.
If I remember correctly, Plato, a classic philosopher, said that only scholars and philosophers should have any involvement in politics, as the unintelligent would hamper progress. Carl should listen to his classic Western philosophers and shut up.
Whoa, hang on now.
Up yours, woke moralist.
Keep in mind, first and foremost, that Carl himself absolutely believes that he is a philosopher. He considers himself a philosopher and part of the elite. And also, he in many times agrees with the politics of Plato and Platonic theory, which is inherently authoritarian, This whole, like, philosopher king kind of shit where, it would be better if we were ruled by people who were super smart and everybody else just, like, you don't really deserve those rights, Just, I don't know. Wait. Janie met Jeff Goldblum? How'd you meet Jeff Goldblum? That's fascinating. Anyway, we're doing a bit here.
Whoopsie.
In 99.
Right, so you've been there for a long time.
Yeah, and it was a fantastic city. It was a very livable, clean, safe, wonderful city.
Sure,
I mean,
it still is.
when I visited in 2017.
Oh, yeah, what I was going to say is, so Andy No is born and bred in Portland, yet for some reason has that stupid English accent. Like,
Yeah.
It was a clean, safe,
Yeah,
very
and
middle
you
class.
lived with me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful place.
Yeah, it still is.
And I was very impressed. And so, to be honest, there was a part of me that was like, I'm not surprised these guys have got quite far left eccentric luxury beliefs. But man, it seems that it really has gone downhill in the last couple of years.
Sure has not. Sure has not. It is gorgeous. Still gorgeous. Was there 4 weeks ago.
Yes, that stems a lot from the riots of 2020. That
We still just we haven't cleaned them up yet. We just haven't cleaned them up. Riots of 2020, which, keep in mind, Portland has never had riots. It has never had riots. It's not like Portland hasn't been a central protest city since, I don't know, the 50s, maybe even before that. And there were way, way, way worse riots and protests in Portland way before 2020. But you know what? It's not the current thing for people to pay attention to, so whatever. I don't know, man. I don't know. Ridiculous. We're just very lazy in Oregon, and we just haven't bothered to pick up all the trash from the protests 3 years ago. We'll get around to it.
really brought in a whole number of like consequences way beyond the riots. Because riots they ended in after like 7 months.
I mean, that's a long time.
It is very long.
It was like 100 straight days of rioting, wasn't it?
120 straight days, and then it became about twice weekly, then once a week, then monthly, until it trailed off.
Literally like a festival.
But it was...
How in the fuck is that like a festival? I don't even understand how that's supposed to... What? Dolphin Jelly, do you think Carl still has that garbage human hat? Oh, the one that I made for him? Probably not. Probably not. I don't know. I imagine at some point he like found it in some of his stuff, and it made him think of me, and he got really, really mad, and he threw it away in a big huff. Then he had to like whine to his wife about it or something. I don't know. I don't know. That's my headcanon. I'm gonna go with it. Yeah.
It wasn't just the riots. I would argue that it was the response to the riots.
Yeah. Oh.
I would say that's more accurate.
Okay,
yes.
Tell us about the response, because I assume it was just generally permissive.
Well, let me rephrase. It wasn't just about the riots. It was about the lack of response to the riots.
Yeah. The lack of response. Okay, so you got to keep in mind something. In 2020, and when they're talking about the riots, they're talking about there was basically a siege of the Justice Center, where Portland, not just Antifa and protesters, but like the city was voicing a lot of concerns, and they were mad, and they kind of sieged basically every night, surrounded the Justice Center and protested for about 120 days. Yeah. Now they're like, well, the response wasn't enough. There were literally federal agents driving around this is true. This is one, you can look it up. It's totally true. Federal agents driving around in unmarked vans, black bagging people. This shit happened. They black bagged people. It's fucking crazy. And the thing is, too, one of the biggest problems that you have with this whole thing, the mayor is the chief of police in Portland. And if you're thinking to yourself, isn't that fucked up? Yes, it is.
Andy is like Madonna. Probably visited England one time and came back with the accent for no reason.
Probably,
I also love how they always leave out economic issues as a reason for crime and homelessness, instead blaming woke leftists as if they're orcs.
That's exactly what they do. 100%. Absolutely. Abso-fucking-lutely. It's just, I don't know. It's very, very dumb.
Yeah, so I was there undercover at that time. I was gathering observations for my book.
No, you weren't. In 2020, your ass was hiding in another goddamn country. You still hide in a different country, Andy. You lying back. Undercover. My ass.
Unmasked, which I've talked about on your show in 2021. The response, though, from the local government was to completely enable and to legitimize those actions.
Which is why they were cracking people's skulls and, arresting them en masse. And yeah, oh, okay, sure.
The long consequences, there are a few, I would say. One, it helped normalize a culture of just criminality in public. And then on top of that, you had many, many police officers who resigned or transferred to other agencies because Portland became such a hostile place for police. So
none of that's true either. None of that is true. None of it. So when there was the siege happening in Portland, Because everybody painted it, especially this lying dickhead, painted it as in the entire city of Portland is burning, or even a large part of Portland is burning. Like, oh my God, the devastation. I went down there during that whole point, during the 120 days of protest, and you go to where it's at, and you're like, wow, this place is fucked up. Wow, people are pissed. There's no grass left in that park because people have been stomping all over it. Holy shit. And then you would walk a block and a half away in either direction from that, and you would never know that it happened. Life went on. You ask somebody from Portland who is not a lying dickbag what it's like when there are protests like that happen in the city, they'll tell you the same thing. I know because I lived through it. I lived there a bunch. You just got used to it. And they're like, oh, hey, there's a protest going on over at so-and-so. Okay, so instead of taking the 6 bus, I'm going to go grab the 12. Okay, cool. Thanks for letting me know. And that's it. That's as far as anybody in Portland gives a shit about. Nobody else cares about it. It's not a big deal.
So even when after the whole defund the police thing happened, and then
which no police in Portland were defunded. In fact, their budget went up.
They were refunded. The damage was already done. The money is there, but law enforcement recruits are not willing to apply in Portland for many, many reasons.
Incorrect. They are not having any problems with hiring right now.
And so with that, you have really excessive wait times for emergency 911 phone calls.
Incorrect. I've never heard that at all. Sounds totally fabricated.
And short, basically, of a life or death situation, you are really not going to get a police response. So
somebody said the city is fine. The areas where bad things happen get burned and protests are the bad thing. Sort of. Sometimes. I'm not trying to be an apologist for this either. Keep in mind, when Portland does a protest, it goes big. It goes really, really big. There was one of the protests, I think it was in 2021, and it started with, I think, about 500 people started marching towards downtown. By the time it got to downtown, there was over 20,000 people. This wasn't a group of protesters that were protesting. This was the city of Portland protesting. Like, that's a lot of people. Now, the problem is, when you do have a protest, and especially a very emotionally charged situation, there are some people, they fuck around, and they break stuff, and sometimes innocent people get hurt. And honestly, if you hurt somebody, like an innocent person in a protest, you should go to jail. If you break somebody's mom and pop small business and, like, hurt somebody's, pockets because of that shit, yeah, you should probably see some consequences for that, for sure. But, like, if anybody wants to delegitimize 20,000 people marching because some kid threw a brick through a bank window, dude, fuck off. Come on. Should he probably not have done that? Probably not. It's not really good optics, but should anybody really care? Not really. I mean, let's grow up on this one, okay?
All the things around robberies, thefts, street violence, you're not going to get a police response. And with that, and just a permissive environment politically for lawlessness, and we had an explosion of homeless encampments, which ebbs and flows. But from 2020 till now, I think it's probably the worst it's ever been in Portland.
I think in the last 8 months or so, it's not been as bad. The city is, along with some rich donors, have started initiatives to clean up the city. I've often wondered...
Clean up the city is an interesting way to put it. So Portland has a pretty moderate crime rate, let's see. It does have a higher amount of property crime, but I think I do know why that is. We can talk about it. And it has been progressively going down.
People use their First Amendment rights to protest an unfair system, Andy.
Yeah.
They destroyed the cities. There were gangs walking around.
People use the First Amendment rights. Yeah. Exactly. Nah, it's always going to be painted in the worst light. It does look like there was an uptick, but I'm trying to find the more recent stats because the last I saw, it's been going down. I mean, it's still not great. It's a city, There we go. New studies of the crime data. All right. Yeah, we don't even make the top 15. Not even close. Wow, that's crazy. Huh. Wacky. Anyway.
So the mayor is unbelievably unpopular, and
Yes.
someone the mayor, a woman named Sarah Irioni, do you remember her? Yeah, I believe she put ABD PhD in her. All but dissertation does not make you have a PhD.
Sarah Inaroni was a communist woman who ran against Ted Wheeler in 2020.
She's the one who wore the Maoist skirt.
You remember that?
I do.
Exactly.
Yes, that's correct. That's
Portland,
correct.
Portland for me is something of a fascinating case study because I remember very clearly in 2017, 2018 when Ted Wheeler was trying to court Antifa.
Him.
Yeah, him. He was trying to speak at their rallies, and they ended up booing him out, shaming him out, and then said,
I don't remember that at all of Ted Wheeler even bothering to try and and talk to anybody who like is of an activist persuasion. But talking at like an Antifa event, I don't think that's happened. I don't think that's really happened. If so, it's probably something much more isolated and small. I mean, I have seen this happen in smaller towns, but like I don't think that would fly too well in Portland, you know.
setting his apartment on fire.
Yeah.
What cities are in the top 10? According to the current statistics, the top 10 are St. Louis, Mobile, Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama, Baltimore, Maryland, Memphis, Tennessee, Detroit, Michigan, Cleveland, Ohio, New Orleans, Shreveport, Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So then out of the top 10, only 2, I think, aren't red states. I don't know, because Michigan's a blue state. What's Maryland? Is Maryland blue or red? It's probably blue. So yeah, 2 out of the 8 are blue states. The rest are red states. After that is Little Rock, Arkansas, Oakland, California, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Kansas City, and Philadelphia. Fascinating.
Is his apartment in the Pearl District, and the consequence of that is he went to his $1 million home in the Northwest, right?
We don't know where he is now, but he left
once they set the lobby of his building on fire.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right. So
Set the lobby. Wait. I gotta see if this is a real thing or not. Okay, this is interesting. March to Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler's home declared riot Monday as burning debris thrown into the building. Oh man. Okay, so they lit a fire in the street. Yeah. Wow, crazy. A bundle of newspapers was set ablaze and thrown into a ground floor storefront in the residential building. Oh, a bundle of newspapers. Damn. They sure don't. I mean, look, obviously, guys, knock it off. All right. Knock it off. Don't do that. I mean, burning shit outside of the mayor's like condominium, being like, "Yo, you're fucking up." I don't really have a problem with that. I'm sorry if people get like shocked by this. I'm sorry, but civil disobedience is a very important thing. And if you're just burning like a bunch of trash in the street, and they're like, "Yo, pay attention. We have complaints. We are the people that you're supposed to be working, for." That's cool. But like when you throw some news, because obviously they're burning newspaper into a fucking condominium in the Pearl District, which is one of the nicest areas in all of Portland. Like obviously it's not gonna burn the goddamn building down, but still, it's bad. It's bad. You shouldn't do that. Yeah, and France makes Portland look like Disneyland. I agree. 100%. 100%.
New Orleans is on the list. I feel bad for Monty.
Oh, no, don't. Listen, New Orleans has been on the list of most dangerous cities in the United States, sometimes even the world, for a long time, including when I lived there. You just know how to live in New Orleans and you're fine. You're fine. Just you know how to handle yourself and where to go and not to go. That's it.
Yes.
Eat the rich, but be safe about it, lol.
Exactly. Use a knife and fork and chew slowly and little bites at a time. That's how we do it. Thank you very much, Gadget656. Appreciate you.
There is something.
It was Antifa who did that, but
Oh, it's Antifa who did that, by the way. Anything bad that happens is Antifa. Burning anything in front of anybody's house is probably not going to make the person take anything you have to say seriously. Agreed. Except, actually, no, not agreed. If you know, here's the thing. All right, hang on. Listen, okay, there's something that we have to understand is we have a very fucked up relationship, at least here in the United States, and a lot of other countries as well. We have a really fucked up relationship with authority, okay? Used to be. We had a very healthy relationship where we understood that the people that we elect are supposed to work for us, and if they do not, we can then vote them out. And that's how it's supposed to work. That is not how it necessarily works now. Not really.
Yummy.
If you eat fish caught in the Atlantic over the next few weeks, there's a chance you are in fact eating the rich.
Ooh, that's good. That's really good. But look, there's so many factors at work that make it very, very difficult for you to actually utilize your collective power as the people who should hold the power in the country. That's how it's supposed to work. There are more of us. But we have such a weird relationship now where we see politicians and people in authority as somehow having power over us and that they are somehow better than us, you know? And I find this very fascinating. And so I really do like protests. And I don't care if you want to burn something in front of somebody's house as long as it's safe and in the street and you're trying to make a point of like you need to pay attention. Because there should be some degree of politicians understanding that their constituents do wield some degree of threat. Because if the threat of your constituents is no longer them able to vote you out, people will find another way to make you pay attention. I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying. Are we so lost that we never ask why are they so angry? Could there be something wrong that I'm insulated from? Right, exactly. Exactly. That's exactly the problem, you know? It's so it's the whole thing is absolutely bazonkers. All right, let's get back to it.
Yeah, there's something very symbolic in that, right?
Yeah.
Like that. Here's a
the left-wing facilitator of the communist revolutionaries tries to ingratiate himself with the communist revolutionaries.
There is nothing left-wing about Ted Wheeler at all. Nothing left-wing. No, sorry.
And then gets violently chased out of his own city. There's something very symbolic about this.
I think that the mistake, the larger lesson here, I think the mistake is that many either on the left or people who would self-describe them as centrist believe that there can be some kind of appeasement and then a rapprochement with people when the fact they already hate you, there is no appeasement. But the other thing that's operative there is that he's rich and he comes from a very wealthy family and he can just move, unlike most middle-class people and virtually all, if not all, people from the lower classes. They just don't have that opportunity. So if someone set their building on fire, they're just out of luck. They have to go to a shelter.
Did Portland get an autonomous zone?
That's an interesting way of at least, you know, describing some degree of class privilege in that. That's interesting. All right, whatever.
yes.
No, I didn't hear what he said. Hang on, shit.
So,
Excuse me.
in
So I know Seattle did. I couldn't remember if Portland did. Right.
there was one in the summer of
I guess I fucked that up. Hang on. Where was it?
so
No, god damn it.
People from the lower classes, they just don't have that opportunity.
Yeah.
So if someone set their building on fire, they're just out of luck. They have to go to a shelter.
Did Portland get an autonomous zone?
yes, it did. So
Excuse me.
in
So I know Seattle did. I couldn't remember if Portland did.
Sort of.
There was one in the summer of 2020 in Seattle, the infamous Chaz Capitol
yeah.
Hill Autonomous Zone. Then by December of 2020, the Antifa in Portland tried to create their own autonomous zone. modeled after Chaz. It was much smaller. They called it RHAZ, R-H-A-Z, Red House Autonomous.
R-H-A-Z. No, I do kind of remember that, but if I'm not, hang on. Let me see. Oh God, this is from the New York Post. I'm sure it's going to be unbiased. Oh yeah, no. I remember this. This is hilarious. Yeah. Red House Autonomous Zone, named after a red painted house occupied at the heart of the zone. So if I'm not mistaken, yeah, was occupied, but members of the Kinney family and their allies, Kinneys, who hadn't paid their mortgage since 2017, were evicted after a tortuous legal process. The fact they own a second-story house nearby didn't prevent the mixed race Kinneys and their allies from claiming victimization by, you guessed it, racism. Yeah, this is going to be very, very specifically skewed in one side. But yeah, basically, there was something going on where they were going to be evicted, and people basically wanted to protest that eviction. And so they basically barricaded around like a quarter of a block. Okay.
Zone. It was centered around this house in North Portland. They had booby traps set up. The whole road was just blocked off, the whole street. It went on for a few weeks, and the city, just like during the riots, just allowed it to go on, and then it eventually fizzled out because of infighting and issues that always happen with these far left groups.
All right, so this is something that's kind of important to mention. Somebody saying I worked as an EMT in Seattle in 2020. Lots of rapes and stabbings went down in peace-loving Chad. Look, nobody thinks an autonomous zone is actually going to work. Nobody does. Nobody. It's a terrible idea. It's really entertaining, but it's a terrible idea. Absolutely terrible. What is fascinating to me, though, is that when you have something like Chaz or the Raz or whatever, and yes, they always have to bring this up because to them, they think it's like this big, huge thing and not just a giant mess, okay? They just, whatever. Is that they fail to mention that people like Mayor Ted Wheeler, the left-wing progressive Ted Wheeler, regularly has bulldozers plow over homeless encampments of people just trying to survive the winter. And he'll just plow them over. No problem. Doesn't give a shit. But he didn't do it when there was a bunch of people that were making a lot of noise and a lot of cameras around and paying attention to it. And, being defensible. Now, does this actually help anything in the long run? Not really, because Ted Wheeler's still the goddamn mayor. It is what it is. But you know what they also never mention? Ooh.
Yummy.
Jeff, stop making fun of minorities like Carl. Don't you know he's a quarter black? His grandfather was black. Racist. Get canceled.
That's true. All right. So since his grandfather was black and he's a quarter black, I'll only bully him a quarter the amount that I will Andy and Peter Boghossian. All right? That's how it works. But what they don't mention, what these guys never talk about, is Occupy. So yeah, the Chaz thing in Seattle, giant shit show. The Raz in Portland, giant shit show. Occupy had basically like a little town, a little shanty town that they built in the middle of Portland, right outside of City Hall, and it was there for I think a year. I think it was about a year, and it was really well policed. I mean, there was still bad things still happen every now and then, but they had a public library. They had volunteer doctors. They had a screening process for people to stay there. They did a bunch of outreach for homeless people. They actually they did a lot of good in that, but these guys don't bring it up because that's an example of some community action that actually worked and wasn't just a giant shit show. So, yeah, it's so ridiculous. It's crazy.
Was anyone murdered in it, like in the Chaz?
No.
I don't
No.
think so. There were
Occupy still had lots of rapes and stabbings too. Yeah, not in the. Okay, I'm talking about Portland. This video is about Portland. What happened in Seattle? I don't know. But the Portland one, the one that was an entire city block in the middle of Portland, went really well. Was there still problems? Yes. Are there problems everywhere? Yes. But they don't bring it up, and that's the reason they don't bring it up. I'm pointing out the hypocrisy of why they're like discussing this, not trying to be like, it was all rainbows and unicorn farts, all right? Jesus fucking Christ.
rumors of unreported rapes and assaults, but I don't think anybody was murdered.
Nobody was killed at the Portland Autonomous Zone. It's too small.
Right. Okay. And so the local government was just totally permissive of all this, right?
It was, but maybe the
weren't.
confusion about the murder comes from the fact that there was a murder during the summer of 2020 in Portland. That was the murder of a Trump supporter by a self-described 100% Antifa. Those were his words on his manifesto.
He was shot.
He shot the Trump supporter in downtown Portland during one of the Antifa riots, then fled out of state to Washington State, close to Olympia.
Is this the guy who got a favorable interview with Vice magazine?
That's right. When he was on the run.
Yes.
And nobody knew who he was. He gave,
Trying to remember who that guy was. I worked in the medical field in that area at the time. You're basing your opinion off things you read. I went there. Britt, respectfully, Britt, as far as I'm aware, you said that you were up in Seattle. I was in Portland. I went there. I was at Occupy in Portland. Like, I know what the fuck I'm talking about, all right? Like, seriously, you were fascinated. You were an EMT. We're talking about Portland. Unless you were an EMT in Portland, then it's irrelevant to what I'm fucking talking about. I don't care. I don't give a fuck. Jesus fucking Christ, man. Jesus. What the fuck? Anyway.
Journalist at Vice knew where this fugitive.
Oh, yeah. Lloydie says, long time to watch. Going to bed, give kitty treat. I don't have a kitty anymore, though. My kitty passed away. Yeah. Oh.
It was.
Yeah.
He died in a shootout with police. And I wrote about this in my book, but there were multiple instances where he had been actually arrested by law enforcement in the state of Oregon and was just let out, including at one of the riots a number of weeks before he went on to murder somebody. He illegally had a firearm, right. And he was just let out. I mean, this was the big issues. Riots were happening every night.
Oh, okay, there we go. I think it was that. Was it Michael Raynol? Yeah. Michael Raynol. Basically, he got a. I mean, listen. Nobody actually knows. Nobody knows. But yeah, he ended up in this homicide investigation, and they tracked him down in Washington State. But even still to this day, the last time I looked at it, even still to this day, a lot of people were pretty pissed off about it because there were some questions about the investigation. But as far as what we have as evidence, I mean, there's not much more you can really say about it. So
hundreds of people were being arrested every week, and the cases were just dismissed or dropped. This is a matter of policy by the prosecution.
This is very, very important. So my whole life, I've just assumed that everybody's just going to do the job and their system's going to plug along, right? The police are going to arrest criminals. The court is going to, the judiciary is basically going to say, are they innocent, are they guilty? The penal system is going to imprison, and the probation system is going to mediate that. When any branch of that breaks down, the whole system collapses. And I just always took it for granted. So in the beginning of the riots in particular, there were not a lot of prosecutions. And I think that's what alienated many of the police, because they were arresting people, and the district attorney. And
yeah, so this is an interesting one too. That guy Raynol, who got killed by police. So the murder investigation that was involving him, there's video evidence of him, like the guy that he shot and killed was this Patriot Prayer dude who's walking around with bear mace and an expandable baton. Now, look, I do not think that shooting somebody is an appropriate response of escalation to somebody with bear mace and a collapsible baton. In some cases, and in some legal instances, having something like a collapsible baton can be seen as a deadly weapon, and then it's kind of, and it gets to who shot first, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So again, that's up to courts. That's not up to me. I'm not going to tell you which is the legal truth of it. But I have seen plenty of cases where people got off scot-free using a gun in a lethal method against somebody who is way, way less armed than that. But that's okay. That's okay.
I think he's changed his tune. We could talk about that. Mike Schmidt was simply not prosecuting people. And that gave the entire city the feeling of lawlessness, right?
That's a good reason.
And
for
it
that.
emboldened people. They just knew that nothing was going to happen to them.
But city council actually
None of that's true. None of that is true. I swear to God. I can't hammer this in enough. Is that regardless of how much protesting goes on in Portland, the rest of the city barely notices. That's just how it is. What this is for is literally anybody who does not live in Portland to paint a very specific idea of what they want you to think Portland is, and it just is not.
took measures to specifically make law enforcement less effective during the riots. For example, banning them from cooperating with federal law enforcement. They actually passed resolutions. Portland police could not cooperate in any way with the federal law enforcement.
And remember, Trump was in office at the time, and Ted
So it's
Wheeler,
very
him
anti-Trump,
is a leftist.
Yeah.
And
Ted Wheeler's not a left. I swear to fucking God. I have the thing. So I expect Carl to be a lying dickbag, all right, and I expect Andy No to be a lying dickbag. But it continually and perpetually disappoints me that Peter Boghossian is doing this, because I really liked him when I met him. Really cool guy. Really, really cool guy. Knows how to take a shot of whiskey, man. I mean, we were slamming shots. It was a really good time. And he's not a dumb person, but apparently he also is a convictionless, spineless piece of shit, just like the rest of them. So whatever.
the far left also engaged in lawfare. They're very good at that. So they sued the Portland police, accusing them of using excessive force. So then, what's happened is that Portland police are banned from using tear gas.
Incorrect.
And impact munitions.
Incorrect.
Right.
So the only tools they have now for a long time now to respond to the riots was batons and pepper spray.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with a mob of hundreds and thousands. Yeah. So then they actually did it was very clear they pulled back after a number of months from responding. I don't know if I speculate that was an official reaction to basically them not having any tools. But then this is why it went on for so long. If you ask me, how do you have riots that go on that long? It's because it was completely, the rioters were able to act with impunity.
This is 100% a lie. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. During the 120 days of protests, I don't remember the actual number, the actual number of it. Impact munitions and impact munitions, flashbangs, rubber band rounds, beanbag rounds, tear gas was deployed constantly. There was no point where they did not do that at all. That is not a thing. This is just a lie, just a flat out lie. Because there's no consequences for Andy No lying at all. Like, nobody's gonna give a shit. The only reason why anybody listens to Andy No is to just confirm their own biases.
Also, far left rioters.
Yeah, I was going to say about the far left thing, because that's the other side of the question, right? Because there's one thing, the authorities not cracking down on massive violent riots, right? That's one thing, smashing up innocent people's property and all this sort of stuff. But there's also got to be a motivating force to make people go out and riot in the first place. And it's worth talking about that, isn't it? Like, what is motivating them for 120 days straight to go out and riot? 3 years ago. It's so weird because I can't even remember the last time. That there was actually a protest, like a major protest up in Portland. There was like a small one briefly earlier this year about something.
But like, if you go and look around on like the news articles and everything, all the news articles are like, from this riot back in 2021, from this riot back in 2020. Like, I don't even know. I think it's because that's how he got like famous, and that's how he is maintaining relevancy, is why they're still talking about this, why they're still like hammering in on Portland is such a dangerous place. It's so stupid, so dumb.
Well, ostensibly it was for racial justice because of George Floyd, but it was an opportunity for violent anarchists, narcissistic extremists, and communists.
You should not be calling anyone a narcissistic extremist, Andy. Sorry.
To have a free-for-all in public. There was a study that was just published in, I think the journal is Current Psychology, and it's a quantitative study looking at personality traits of political extremists. And one, according to the academic authors of this article, they found...
Oh my God, he's so boring!
...that narcissistic and violent psychopathy traits are predictors of also having far-left extremist views. This is completely unsurprising to any of us who's been covering this.
Gotcha. What about the far-right extremists that you yourself are friends with and, participated in an ambush where a woman got her neck broken, Andy? Remember that one? Andy? Dick. There are videos of the cops trapping protesters within an area and then tear gassing it. It's public record. And also the black bagging. I know. Yeah. Absolutely. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's fucking crazy.
It's nice to see there's at least now some
science
academic research to back that up. But yeah, so you had ideologues that were spearheading a lot of the organizing, and you had a lot of riffraff who showed up, including homeless people. These were kind of like these were a lot of the people who arrested, basically the fodder, the people who just showed up, were given the explosives to throw, given the weapons to use.
What?
They were arrested and on the rare chance prosecuted.
Oh, I see. Oh, so some shadowy cabal manipulated these people like foot soldiers. Okay.
The people behind them would never be exposed.
Who is that?
And there'd also be people to pay their bail and things like that, assuming it came to that. So you can see how, in the case of Portland,
their bail was crowdfunded. What are you talking about? I love riffraff too.
The entire system seems to actually be set up to encourage and facilitate the rioters.
You only need one facet of the system to not work. That's all you need for the breakdown of the system.
Because going back to your assumption that, well, the system will just work, right? The people within it will just do what they're expected to do.
Naive assumption now.
Well, is it naive? Because, normally the people within an institution work towards the internal goal of the institution.
Yeah.
Correct.
The justice system, people are working to get to what they believe to be a just conclusion. But in the university, they want educated people. There's an internal goal to the institution, and it's not unreasonable or naive to think that the people involved will be working towards that goal.
So would you want to take that?
Go ahead.
Well, this is incredibly dull. Okay, so there are there are chapters here. So let's see. Where are we at? We're at 12:55. What's next? Diversity. What should happen to rioters? Ferguson effect. Equity-based initiatives. Managerial. Policing in black communities. Man, I can't wait to hear these three talk about policing in black communities. Great idea. Radical left. National divorce. Ooh, national divorce sounds great. Are gay people happy? Wow. Okay. All right. First and foremost, we're almost to diversity. I want to hear that, and then we're probably going to skip ahead to national divorce. I want to hear them talk about the national divorce. Please, God, let's do it.
Well, there are many ways to look at it. Here's one way to look at it, is that diversity, equity, and inclusion are universal solvents, and they destroy everything they touch.
Oh. The moment you mix up the races too much, man, society starts to crumble. I know that's not what he's saying. This doesn't sound great without context.
And one of the consequences is the mission of institutions change, and they change from doing what they're supposed to be doing, arresting criminals, prosecuting criminals, incarcerating criminals, adjudicating, or what have you. It changes to an equity-based system. So, for example, racial sentencing, racial hiring among police.
You do know that racial sentencing is not favoring like diversity and it's kind of the opposite, right? Like you kind of know that, right? Like you're a fucking professor. You could like look this shit up, right? Right? You what? What in the fucking world are you talking about?
And once the North Star of the institution is lost, the primary mission, it just goes off mission.
Yeah, it gets an external goal.
It has another goal, and both of those goals. I mean, how does one hierarchically prioritize when those goals are in competition? So that's one way to look at it. There are two others, but
I would argue that in 2020 and before that, during the Trump years, that the actions of the violent street thugs, whatever they organized under, was in line actually with the Democrat establishment in places like Oregon and Washington State.
How?
Not entirely. I mean, Antifa believe in actually literally overthrowing the state.
Yeah.
However, Antifa and BLM were very useful as sort of street thugs in enforcing violently, basically Democrat orthodoxy around.
What in the world are you talking about? What? Okay. Okay. Go ahead. Explain this to me.
Social justice beliefs. Do you disagree with that?
Well, no, I think that's completely true. There's a kind of a sort of river of principles that they're all operating. They're all sailing down, right? They all agree that they want social justice, racial equality, sexual equality, liberation, all that sort of thing.
Let me pick a bone with both things you have said. I don't. So yes, I'll give it to you that that's primarily found among Democrats, but that's a value that's parasitized itself onto traditional democratic institutions. I mean, that's not the value of the old leftists. I mean, I'm just thinking about
No. Okay, so what they are what Andy's trying to say is he's trying to paint paint a picture that Antifa street violence, street violence is somehow helping Democrats, and that they're the brown shirts of the Democrats, which is insane and makes no sense. Oregon is a very blue state. The Democrats do not need help in maintaining their base of power inside this state. It is not a threat at all. It is not a threat. If anything, Antifa street violence disillusions liberal voters away from like maybe the leadership of a city, if it seems like they're not doing enough to curb that type of violence because it's disruptive to them. None of this makes sense on any intellectual level. It also isn't real. It's just not fucking real. The truth is, the vast majority of like protest violence is done by a bunch of crazy ass kids. That's it. Like there are some leftist groups that do collectively group together for defense. You've got your John Brown gun clubs. You do have some Antifa chapters. They're actually pretty rare and they're usually pretty small. You got Socialist Rifle Association, but they refuse to get political. If you were to like any kind of thing that you see with like the Oath Keepers, the Proud Boys, the Patriot Front, like all these kinds of right-wing militias, there is no left-wing equivalent. None. It doesn't exist. It does not exist. Instead, what you have is a protest city that can get really rowdy because its citizens are very passionate about what they believe. And yeah, there are a bunch of like crazy dickhead anarchist kids running around like smashing shit up, but there is no direct comparison. It makes no sense at all. Milo Yiannopoulos debated Destiny? Oh, God, no, I haven't seen that. Andy would lose fans if his analysis worked on any intellectual level. I agree. Like, Andy, no, is 100% about coddling the feelings of people that are afraid and are worried that what they believe might be unpopular. And so Andy No pats him on the head and says, no. Don't think too hard. Don't think too hard, because if you do, then you might have to question your beliefs. You are right. Everything's fine. So anyway, let's skip to the national divorce segment. I want to see
thing he said. If you're a sane person and you are listening to that, you are complete. Can I swear?
No.
You are completely freaked out.
Yes.
By that. And a consequence of being freaked out by that is, one of them is, I cannot live with these people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a consequence of that, if enough people start saying that, they think we need a national divorce.
Yeah.
That's how insane this is.
Yeah. And that's why you see the Republicans talking about this all the time. And I'm like, really, you're going to concede half your country to these maniacs, are you?
Yeah.
And the Republicans seem to be like, well, yeah, I just want them away from it. It's like, I hate to say it, but you guys are going to have to get into like crusading mode, right? You need to go and conquer these areas, drive these lunatics out, and make sure they never hold public office again. You know, get a ground game, get your guys in.
Okay, so there's a really interesting part about that. If presidential, just as an example, if presidential elections were done by popular vote, we would never again have a Republican president. Period. This idea, there's this constant narrative that's pushed by people like these three dickheads, that the silent majority are people that are just going to agree with them, which is usually not true. One of the biggest voting blocks is independent voters. They might be registered one way or the other, but they are actually kind of open to the different ideas. And if they see something as a bad enough idea, they'll reject it and they'll vote against it. It overwhelmingly, over and over and over and over again, we see with the popular vote where people's opinions are. We see that people, including Republicans, like Republicans are for gay marriage. Not all of them. There's a large chunk that aren't, but the majority are. And so, like, they have to paint this in this way that everything, like, to the left of George Bush is, like, radical, leftist, progressive, Marxist, communist, neoliberal, just
up yours, woke
mind virus, just infecting society, and they're insane. To try and further bolster their case. But the truth is, that's not reality. That's not how real people work, you know?
Elected. It's not impossible. It can happen. That's what they're doing to you. You've got to go and do it back. But for some reason, the Republicans are just...
institutional capture, large-scale institutional capture.
It's not just that. It's not just that. There's some kind of fear in the conservative... Not necessarily like... There's like this sort of... the Christian nationalists, right, who want to do that.
Yeah.
But for some reason, like the Republicans who are reasonable people are actually kind of afraid of just legislating against the left. And it's like, no, like Ron DeSantis is a great example who's actually willing to do it. Right? Just go and do it. Just no, ban. You don't get to do this. You know, we're in charge.
So pro-authoritarianism. Okay, cool. Just making sweeping changes, not voting on them, not, trying to make sure that this is going to fall in line with, the Constitution. Ron DeSantis, who kidnaps migrants and ships them around the country. Yeah, great example. Great example, of legislating against Democrats. What they mean is cruelty. That's what the right-leaning politicians are really trying to campaign on these days, is cruelty. And it is not doing them any favors because they keep losing elections. But for some reason, they think if they're just cruel to people for no goddamn reason and make things like trans people the issue, that suddenly they're going to get popular again. And they keep finding out that that's not true because people don't agree with them. And that makes these guys mad.
We're legitimately in charge. You don't get to do it. But for some reason, conservatives in this country in particular, but it's still across large amounts of America, I think, are just kind of...
That's a good point. Yeah. Carl of Swindon, Mr. Carl Benjamin Sargon of Akkad, spent the vast majority of his entire career on YouTube talking about how pro-free speech it is. Now, pro-free speech is everything. Free speech is the most important thing in the goddamn world. It is the most important. And then here comes Ron DeSantis banning things, banning people's ability to express themselves, banning books, banning this, banning that. And he's like, no, yeah, that's actually really good, actually. Yeah, absolutely. But if you ask him, he's going to say that he's still pro-free speech because he's a lying piece of shit. So...
afraid of declaring war. And it's like, no, these people, if you can't tell, have declared war on you. Like, if this isn't a war.
Well, the American right has this, well, and also the British conservative tradition, has this view of respecting the autonomy and rights of the citizen and the individual. And so I think...
Sounds quaint, doesn't it, when you say it like that?
Let's just say the GOP, the political philosophy really is about, in many ways, kind of handicapping themselves, kneecapping themselves. Because the other side, the radicals on the left, they don't have any principles that
of which I would include people like Joe Biden, right?
They don't have any principles. What are you talking about? They don't have any principles. Okay. Look, before I start sounding like I'm really standing for Democrats, I think Democrats are largely useless. It's very frustrating. Very, very frustrating. There are instances where they get some good stuff done, and I'm happy about that. But the idea that there are no principles over on the other side of the political aisle is categorically ridiculous. It comes down to like a very basic concept. One side thinks that the world has problems and it can do better, right? And the other thinks that the world used to be better and it needs to go backwards to that point, right? One sees in reverse and one sees forward. That's really... And to say that there are no values and no convictions on one is absolutely ridiculous, because that's just not true.
Well, I would include Joe Biden as a radical on the left.
Why?
Because of the things he does. I mean, the first day in office,
How?
He literally just sat down and was like, I hate Trump. I'm going to undo everything that he did. Whether it was a good idea or not. Like canceling the Keystone XL pipeline. What are you doing? There are loads of like gender reforms and stuff like this. He just undoes all of this stuff.
I don't think it's so
borders.
much Biden as more so the DNC has really been captured by the radicals.
Sure, but...
Holy shit. Wow. I mean, like, this is absolutely nuts. I don't even know how people with a straight face can look at Joe Biden and say, like, yeah, radical leftist Joe Brandon. No, I'm sorry. Even when he goes dark Brandon mode and he starts actually doing some things that are reasonably decent, anybody who has kind of a broader political view on what the actual Overton window is, sees that at best he vacillates right in the center, but mostly economically, he's still over in the center right lane, man. That's just how it is. But they have to do this because they lie, Only on the far right is it easy to be a radical leftist. Well, and so that's the thing, too. These guys think that they're centrist, or at least they try and promote themselves as centrist, right? Andy Ngo is just a giant fake. He's a fake human being who has never said a true thing ever in his entire career and is entirely a propagandist. But the fact that he himself has specifically had direct ties and participated in far-right violence...
Yummy.
Drac Brandon and Obama, known Antifa generals.
Oh, yeah. Drac Brandon and...
Obama.
That's right. Yeah. Antifa generals. We salute you, Drac Brandon and...
Obama.
That's right. Anyway, so yeah, Andy participated in far right violence with far right gangs. Peter Boghossian, I don't even know. He's just a right winger. But Carl wants to portray himself as this enlightened skeptic, enlightened centrist, moderate, blah blah blah. But he is in favor of authoritarianism and like very far right authoritarianism. So even when he's kind of been like, well, I'm a little conservative. I'm a little on the right, but really I'm a centrist. No, he is a far right. He is far right. He is a radical. Absolutely a radical. The idea of banning people's speech in the form of just self-expression, like, is insane to me. And it's one thing... You can have a conversation about censorship on social media. Sure, it's a fine thing to talk about. But to try and equate that to the actual banning of, in public, people's ability to express themselves, you're a fucking lunatic. That's like discussing a common cold and then comparing it to fucking Ebola, okay? It is not the same. Getting censored on Twitter is not the same as Ron DeSantis trying to control people's ability to express themselves using the power of the government. Not the same fucking thing. It's not. And if you are pro-free speech on social media so you can drop a bunch of N-bombs or some shit, be totally fine with this fascist motherfucker in Florida trying to do this shit, guess what? You are a far-right extremist. And you love authoritarianism. You want to gargle dictator cock. All right? That's what that fucking means, Carl. Stupid asshole.
It's a party.
But I'm not prepared to let him off the hook, right? Because he is the president.
Yes.
Ostensibly, he should be in charge, right? So
all right, this is boring.
the institution of Biden, then, shall we say, the people who are probably, because obviously, he's 80 years old.
Oh, yeah. He's
That
talking about radical
free
left now, which doesn't mean anything coming from these dickheads. Come on. The new right, problem with Americans, Tucker Carlson, homophobia, are gay people happy? See, this I'm kind of interested in because Andy No's got some really fucking weird opinions about himself. Oh, and then they get straight into Andy's sexuality. Oh, great. Let's do this. Let's start with Tucker Carlson and just watch the whole rest of it, okay? Let's do it. Fuck it.
Aesthetically, these are named individuals with lives, with connections, with an authentic claim to these things.
Yeah, I can't speak to that. I know I've been on Tucker, you've been on Tucker, but I can't speak to that.
I've watched a lot of his shows.
Oh, have you?
Right?
Okay.
He was the only thing on Fox News I watched, right? Because, I mean, everyone else is just kind of a boilerplate Republican. But you can tell that Tucker comes from a richer tradition than that. And
He comes from a rich asshole family. That's what he comes from.
he speaks in words that have got more connotations, right? Whereas you get someone like Sean Hannity, they'll use very thin Republican language.
Yeah, he's a zero, frankly.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I'm not a fan of really any of them. But you could tell with Tucker, he was thinking in a more romantic way about what it was to be.
The last time Fox News had any cojones was when they had Shep Smith. We stand Shep Smith in this house. We love Shep. Shep loved True Blood, and nobody has loved a show more than Shep Smith loved True Blood. It was amazing.
A human being. And this is the sort of deep, rich language that conservatives should be using. And this is starting to actually emerge. And I think, honestly, that's the reason that he got kicked off Fox News, because he was prepared to say things in a particular way that actually kind of invalidated not just the left, it kind of invalidated the GOP. And just before he got kicked off, you saw he was giving a speech. He was like, I'm not part of the GOP.
I saw that.
And because they are essentially the same sort of rationalistic social contract theory construction as the left. They're basically arguing in the same territory. And
Yeah, this is boring. Look, has anybody seen Tucker's new show on Twitter? It's trash, man. It has less production quality than this does, and it gives off real like disenfranchised dickhead boomer making complaint videos. Okay, it's great. It's super great. Yeah. Shep Smith. We stand Shep Smith. Here, hang on. Hang on. I need this in my life right now, just to liven some stuff up here.
Arbitrators, and then for them to give a decision.
I wonder if he was taking V.
What?
V.
What do you mean V?
Well, I mean, the sheriff took V.
Oh.
Do you not watch True Blood?
No.
Because V, you can get all amped.
They're having a serious political conversation, and Shep's like, I was just like that thing on True Blood.
Up on V and do all kinds of weird things. You should watch True Blood. It just began on Sunday again.
Okay, thank you,
Because it'll make you crazy to V.
It'll make me crazy.
You've seen the True
Do they
Blood,
respect
right?
the Constitution on V?
I don't.
Or on True Blood?
No, I think they have their own set of rules.
It sounds like.
Oh my God. Oh man. This is the last time that Fox News is good. Is you'd have these very serious people in here to have very serious conversations. And then you'd have this absolute gem, this fucking champion, just being like, y'all better watch some True Blood.
Sookie is just as weird as ever. Do you watch?
No, I'm sorry, Shepard.
I've never seen Lance Armstrong on there, but I'm guessing that he could probably beat the beat the werewolves. Certainly those other ones. What were those other wolves that were on there?
He doesn't know. He doesn't want it either.
Shepard.
He wants to talk about. He really wants to just fucking talk about True Blood. Ain't nobody on this show's seen it, and he just keeps talking like, what were them other wolves that were on that True Blood?
I'm asleep by the time it's done.
You have DVR?
You
You should record the True Blood.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or we'll give
I
you the
didn't know
True
it's
Death.
that good. I just do the Mad Men.
Well, that's silly. That's over for the season.
I miss him so much. I miss him so fucking much. All right, let's get to the homophobia and yeah. Yeah, I can't believe they fired Shep Smith, man. He was the best. He was the best.
Yeah, he is.
Howdy, Jeff.
Hey, what's up, Minecraft? Thank you very much for the sub over on the Twitch. Appreciate you.
Right.
Well, the left has historically been right about a lot of things. They've been right about civil rights. They've been right about gay rights. They've been right
True.
about. They've been on. They actually have been on the right side of history more frequently. And I think when we talk about the left, it's careful to mean the left right now is infected and it's sick.
Just to stop that,
Here comes a really interesting reframe. So Peter he's got a good point. Progressiveness is the reason why we have a lot of these civil rights advances. It's very true, because that's what progress means. Progress means to try and improve the human condition. That's literally all progressiveness and being progressive means, is to improve the human condition. That's it. There's nothing more nefarious to it than that. But that's not enough. That's not enough for him. That's not enough for him. They're going to have to reframe it in a way that they're going to be able to use politically and, reduce the IQ of the viewer.
it might be too soon to tell, right? That's the problem. Obviously, nobody should be persecuted, right? Obviously. Nobody should be persecuted. I I've never actually, I don't think I've ever been accused of being a homophobe, right? But we don't
you're
know.
clearly not a homophobe.
But we don't know.
You gave Andy a huge hug when you
Of
came.
course.
He's sitting. You're clearly not a homophobe.
Yeah, but you got to understand. To me, Andy is like a figure in the Iliad, right? Andy is like Achilles, Patroclus or Diomedes or someone. He's a named individual. He exists in a firmament, and he will always be.
Shut the fuck up, nerd. What? What? Jesus fucking Christ. I swear to God. I swear to fucking God. I will never get over how fucking smarmy Carl is. He's always like this, too. He's like this in real life, too. And just this absolutely insane way. This is my theory. This is my guess. He's phrasing that so he can now do a homophobia. Okay? Let's see.
Andy No, and he's irreplaceable. He will always be Andy No.
You making me want to give him a big hug right now.
But this is how I feel about everyone that I know. Right? There's no one's a class to me. Everyone is a mythological thing, right? And there's a great story being played out, and I'm the protagonist in my story, but you're the protagonist in yours. You're the protagonist in yours. And when you weave all of these things together, then you have the sort of genuinely conservative view, the aesthetic view, the mythological view that Tucker Carlson is trying to appeal to and trying to articulate.
Okay,
right?
so I can't speak to the. Go ahead.
But what I'm saying is, so obviously I don't want anyone persecuted, but like to say, well, we're on the right side of history with homosexuality, it's like, it depends by which method you judge. If you're judging by questions of liberation and rights and entitlements,
the things that would broadly affect like all of the people that you're talking about and rectify people being left behind in having universal civil rights as everyone else. Yes, that would be exactly what one would be talking about. Sure.
Sure. But if your questions are ones of human suffering,
I can
then actually no, right? Because gay people die 20 years earlier on average than straight people. Gay people.
What? What? let's stop there for a second. So, being pro-gay is not necessarily good because gay people die sooner than non-gay. So it would be better to be anti-gay so that there would be less gays. They would just not be gay and thus would live longer. Is that where we're going with this? I mean, like, the thing is, if Carl wants to jack himself off on camera every single day on his stupid incel fucking YouTube channel and pretend that he's a fucking philosopher and say these incredibly larpy dumb fuck things, well, then we can address this in this source of in examining his philosophy. How in the world does that work? I don't. What? Okay. All right.
People suffer from far more STDs than straight people. Have we really, if we're talking in terms of human suffering? Now, that's not every single gay person, and I'm not suggesting that anything should be done to gay people or something like that. But the problem is we have a monomaniacal view of how to address this.
Jeff, when Jordan Peterson first hit the scene, you said it was perfectly okay for trans people to be denied when applying for an apartment based on them being trans. Definitely did not. Never happened. Yep. Nope. Definitely did not ever fucking happen. Fuck that. Jesus fucking Christ.
This. And actually, there are loads of other ways of analyzing the situation. Like,
what's the this in that sentence?
Well, the whether we have liberated gay people from oppression, right? Sure, but are they happy? Do they have friends? Do they have families? Do they have close relationships?
I think.
Are they healthy?
Actually, let's ask.
Why in the world is that okay? Why does that matter first and foremost? So we when we're talking about our government and society taking care of its citizens, we first establish that everybody has the same rights under the law, the same protections under the law. And I don't know if you notice or not, Carl, but our government doesn't give a shit if we're happy, regardless of if we're gay or not. They don't care. They absolutely do not care.
Andy.
Well, sure. And Andy's, obviously. But Andy's a conservative person, right? I imagine that Andy lives a conservative life as a conservative, right? But that's not most gay people. And I think that actually, if you were to look at, say, depression rates in the gay community, I bet you find they're way higher than in other communities, like the straight community, right? And so again, through the doctrine of rights and liberation, sure, we're on the right side of history, but from the doctrine of, are they happy people?
Okay, but go ahead.
Again, why is that any business? If we want to make sure that people are all happy, well, that's a very interesting and strange and subjective thing for us to want to do, and I'm pretty sure there'd be a big conflict there. But I don't really understand how you're going to legislate that. It's weird.
So, are you saying that you think that on average, gay people in society would be happier if they were closeted?
No.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
I don't mean to straw man, but I'm trying to just simplify.
No, what I'm saying is, I don't think that the people in the past had the right way of dealing with gay people. Obviously,
really,
right? And I think that the Enlightenment has, and it's very justified in its own time to say, look, oppressing people isn't good, is it? Right? Obviously, and you can see why, given the sort of post-feudal societies they came out of, that the concerns of the social contract theorists were all, like me, Rousseau, man's born free and ever is in chains. Well, what are the chains? The chains are the ranks of society, right? And these were very thick, very heavy, and I can see totally why in that time and place it seemed this is justified to break these bonds. But
okay. Do you see how these two really have no idea where the fuck Carl is going with this? They seem actually genuinely kind of stunned. Like, what in the fuck are you trying to say right now?
Actually, if your doctrine is predicated on the idea of breaking bonds, then all you can do is break until suddenly there are no bonds left. And then you realize actually human beings can be oppressed by those bonds, but also they need those bonds to exist.
You're talking about the logical conclusion of
the
basically this philosophy.
Yeah. And we're arriving at it.
What? So, okay. Carl's argument is that if your social rights movement is based on breaking down things that are oppressing people and giving people equal rights, which is interesting because he has to phrase it as it's breaking bonds, as in like us discriminating people was a bond. Okay, sure. And not giving people rights, but it's phrased in breaking, only breaking. Then you're going to break all bonds and thus, like, what? You're going to have problems in relationships or something? Because none of that's true, and it also makes no fucking sense. Like, I don't understand how he could actually think this is a good argument. This is bizarre.
We're arriving at where we've got, and it's not just gay people, like Zoomers. Zoomers are like half of them are sexless. You know, in their mid-20s, never had sex. I'm thinking, my God, all I did when I was in my
Yeah, they're all watching your content, Carl. What the fuck?
20s is chase sex, right? I was, constantly trying to get women. I'm sure you were like in your youth, because we're of the same generation. But it's a totally different world. They're most of them only have like one or two good friends, if that. Like a lot of them feel genuinely lonely. They don't feel like they belong anywhere. But they've got all the rights and all the freedom in the world, right? And
it couldn't possibly be because we all now have the internet, and there is a wildly divergent and blossoming new type of social interaction that we as a species are still struggling to kind of figure out how it has a place in our lives, and we balance that between friends and family. This amazing technology that has changed the fucking world over the past 20 years. It couldn't be that. And that's why things are different from how you grew up versus how they're growing up. It couldn't be that. It's because we gave gay people the same rights. Okay.
That I've created.
That's a great. That's what an amazing fucking concept to me. I can't even. Oh my God. Dan Simpson, thank you very much for the raid, buddy. I appreciate you. I'm punishing myself right now by watching this stream of my former associate from years and years and years ago, Dickhead Carl Benjamin, Sargon of Akkad, Soygon, my former boss from 6 or 7 years ago. Lying piece of shit with a fake accent, Andy fucking no, and worthless sack of shit Professor Peter Boghossian. Carl here, I've got a recap for the Raiders, okay? Sorry for everybody who's been here for a while, but I got a recap for the Raiders because this is absolutely fucking mental. Carl right now is trying to argue that, yes, it is good that we gave gay people rights. It is, and the left was right for trying to do that. But was it universally good? Because aren't people also kind of sad now? And don't people sometimes have like a problem, I don't know, like maintaining relationships, And it is the most insane fucking thing. Milkshake? Well, don't forget, Carl didn't just get milkshake. Carl got kippered. Sure did. Yep. Carl Benjamin Fish. Brilliant. Absolutely fucking brilliant. Quite possibly one of the greatest things ever to happen in British politics. There we go. See, this makes us happy. This makes us happy. Get kippered, Carl. This is what happens when a dumb fuck with a stick up his ass and an overbloated sense of self-importance decides to try and run for a fucking political office. Absolute worthless sack of shit. Can you tell that I don't have a very high opinion of Carl? It's interesting. Anyway, thanks very much, guys. Thank you very much, Dan, for the raid. All right, let's go.
So, from the doctrine of rights and freedoms, okay, great, they've got everything they want, and yet they're miserable.
Okay, go ahead.
Just to add, I think that the craziness we're seeing right now in the culture wars around the trans ideology is a complete logical conclusion of the arguments that were mainstreamed for gay rights or same-sex marriage, actually, because a lot of the messaging and how it was.
So wait, so in trying to fight for gay rights, hey, you should accept us. We're here. We're valid. We should have the same rights. Get married if we want to. Have all the same constitutional protections. And now we're trying to make sure that happens for trans people too. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. What's wrong with that, man?
Simplified to the mainstream was essentially that men and women are interchangeable, and that love is love. You apply that just a bit further, then it's like, well, what difference does it really make if an individual identifies as man, woman, neither, and switches back and forth?
Yeah, who cares?
It is kind of the same. It's on the same track, and I think that is, as a gay person, I'm very thankful and indebted to the gay rights activists of prior generations who have worked so hard to make the lives of people like myself safe and having our rights protected in equality under law, etc. But I do think that there were.
God, can you get to the fucking point? Also, his accent is fake. Just saying, it's fake. Fake. Yeah, no, for real, Dan. Yeah. No, Andy, no. I've said it a few billion times at this point. Andy No's fake accent totally goes away when he's in private, off camera, and especially when he's drunk. When he's drunk, he sounds like a Californian. It's great.
Safeguards that should have been put in place and sort of some of these beliefs that just weren't. And nobody thought about where it would be taken in.
And there's no reason they should
5,
have
10,
done
15 years,
right? Because they're operating. Say you're gay in the 1950s. Yeah, a gay liberation movement is a totally justifiable thing, right? But we've got to the point now where the excesses of the gay community are on the streets, right? And during Pride.
The excesses of the gay community are in the streets. What in the fuck is that supposed to mean?
Marches, and they're not very wholesome or respectable. And so there must be...
Oh, I see. The gays aren't acting wholesome or respectable enough. I see. Wow. Listen here, gay people. I'm totally fine with you being able to vote for now and get married. Except just if your state says you can't, then obviously you can't. But can you please tone it down a little in public? Some of us are very uncomfortable. Just bitch, shut your eyes. Like, what the fuck, man? Ain't nobody forcing their shit on you. Just close your eyes, bitch. What the fuck?
Some kind of way of saying, look, maybe we don't want to persecute gay people, but also maybe we could have a measure of respectability where gay people actually feel like they've got an obligation to wider society, right?
What?
Rather than standing there, my right is to walk down the street naked, covered in dildos, throwing fake spunk out everywhere. Well, maybe it is your right, but I don't want to see that. And why should I have to see that?
Then don't go to... Well, okay, first of all, the only time you're going to see something really wild like that happen, there is one event in San Francisco in a very specific neighborhood during Pride where they do a very specific kink event, and they don't let kids there. They don't. So if Carl finds himself at that event, well before he sees the dildo man, he's going to get an idea that I might be walking into something that's going to make me question my sexuality. I might see some beefed up Chad, that makes me think maybe I'll try it. You never know, man. You never know. And if you're not comfortable with that, then maybe just turn around. Go somewhere else.
You're showing me no respect. There's no deference to the wider society at all. And that's not really, I think, what the gay people in the 1950s were arguing for, right? And so there must...
You see, if the people in the 1950s who were gay decided that if they saw that eventually there would be men with dildos attached to their clothes running around, they would have been like, okay, maybe keep the rights. Don't give them to us, you fucking dipshit.
Must be, and also another thing is like the oppression of gays seems to itself have been an ideological stance, right? It seems to have come from a deeply Christian ideological position. Well, I'm not a Christian, right? But
Which is, by the way, primarily Republican position. At least it was 30.
Sure.
Up until very, very recently.
Well,
true. You don't have to be religious to be homophobic. You don't. It's that you don't have to. Is a rizzed up macho man scares him? Yeah, that's right. Rizzed up macho man. Fuck yeah. I need a macho man soundbite. Why don't I have that?
Whoopsie.
Yeah, it's an oversight, man. I should get that. Oh yeah. You know what? I'm just gonna fucking find one. Fuck it. I'm gonna find one here in a minute while I am watching this.
Yeah, but there are also other interpretations of Christianity that don't necessarily hate the sin but love the sinner, right? So it's not all the gay people need to be hurt or they get suppressed or whatever. They
I hate this sin and love this sinner is such a bullshit fucking thing to say. It is so horseshit, and nobody's serious about it. Not really. It's always like an excuse for saying some ignorant, mean, nasty shit. You know?
Oh, yeah!
That's a pretty good one. Nah, I can find a better one. I can find a much better one. Well, I just love them. I love them. Even if they're gay, I love them. I just hate that they butt fuck each other. Karen, it's got nothing to do with you. Mind your fucking business. Like, I just love that Karen, but I hate how much foundation the bitch puts in the craters on her pitted fucking face. At least I have to see your face, okay? You don't see me having gay butt sex. Do you see what the difference is here? You're just walking around flaunting it, and I don't like that. You see how ridiculous this whole fucking thing sounds? It's insane. Mind your own fucking business. I hate the sin, but I love the sinner. No, you don't. Lying ass motherfucker.
They need to be helped, maybe, talk to or whatever. But like,
I think there's a conflation of issues here between policies that Republicans have enacted, and this is in my lifetime. I mean, we're not talking like 100 years ago. I'm 56, and so just
damn it, that one sucks too.
There is a fundamental difference, and the discussion started when I said. And I hate the term right side of history because it's been used almost exclusively with trans issues and as an accusation. But the right side of history, you can actually, to a certain extent, figure that out when it's 20, 30 years, 40 years beyond a particular point, whereas the trans ideology is still playing itself out.
Yeah, but put yourself in the perspective of a religious person. If you believe someone is going to be punished in hell, would you not try to save them? Yeah, that's the problem, though. That's bullshit. People use that as an excuse. They use that as a big excuse. You don't see a lot. Like, there are a lot of religious people who do actual missionary work, and they are invested with trying to save some people's souls. You'll see them in prisons. You'll see them trying to do outreach, and you know what? If that shit really works to pull somebody back from a bad area, a bad situation, helps them to lead a productive life, I have no fucking problem with that. I have no problem with that. But I would say the overwhelming majority amount of time when people say anything as far as like trying to save somebody from the pits of hell, it's because they are personally feeling inconvenienced or grossed out or uneasy about that person's choice of life. And they're trying to basically oppress them by using that as an excuse. So, yes, it's possible, but overwhelmingly, I think it's just used as an excuse. That's my opinion. I obviously can't speak for everyone on the planet, but that's what I would surmise.
I do think that traditionally Democrats have been on the right side of history with, for example, what I started saying with gay rights or...
I'm against this.
What is this?
Fundamentally, the very concept of the right side of history, I don't believe it. I don't believe in weak history.
Because you think it's cyclical.
I do believe it's cyclical, yeah.
Okay, well, then there would be no right side of history. No. But it is panned out right now that...
Peter Boghossian is tired of Carl's shit. Because Carl won't give anything to the left at all. They want he cannot give them even an inch because that politically, that's not what he's getting paid to do.
The umbrella of rights has extended to minorities, homosexuals. Now even it's being extended to animals to a certain extent. And I think that those extensions were good. And the extension of that umbrella of rights was primarily on the part of U.S. Democrats.
Sure, but society's falling apart.
You'll get no argument from me about that. You're saying that that's a natural consequence of the extension of those rights.
It's a natural consequence of the excessive focus on rights and zero focus on duties. So, like, for example, I don't think there's any...
I'm sorry.
And what exactly, how do you do your duty, Carl? I hear him say this kind of shit a lot. And he's actually used this as an excuse to why he's kind of moved further away from some of his actual, like, Enlightenment ideals that he believed in, you know, like free speech, which he does not believe in anymore. Because it's all about duty. Duty. What one should want to do. In service to a larger ideal above himself, you know. Well, what do you do, Carl? What do you do? Like, you are single-handedly lowering the percentage points of the possibility that the young men who watch you will ever fucking touch a vagina, okay? And probably be too afraid to experiment and see if maybe they like penis. You're creating insecure people that believe in shit that is counterintuitive to the way society itself inherently works. You are damaging emotionally young people, and you are lowering the collective IQ of everybody who ever listens to your content and thoughtfully perceives it without critically analyzing it. Like, you are hurting people. You are damaging your nation, your species, Carl. What duty do you perform? Bitch, I don't think you even recycle. Which I know recycling is a complicated one. It's a joke.
I have to clarify. And you're saying that then the Democrats have focused on rights and not focused on duties.
Can you even imagine a Democrat saying the word duty?
No.
I rest my case. But I would think that we have
contemporary Democrats.
Sure. I mean, like
FDR or something.
Sure, he would.
I mean, JFK.
Yeah. But yeah, in the last 30 years, right? You can't really imagine it, right?
I'm pretty sure I've seen even just recently speeches with Biden talking about like the collective action of people to all band together to do this and do that. You know, like yeah. No, I'm pretty sure that happens all the time. They don't say the word duty because they're not a bunch of LARPing dickheads that are trying to like talk about joining in on some tradition to push forward authoritarianism.
But like I think it's totally fair for a conservative to say, look, I think that people should be treated fairly and with compassion. Right? I think a lot of conservatives would completely agree with that.
That was George Bush's compassionate conservative. That was his brand, his moniker. Yeah.
Sure. And so if the left didn't exist and a conservative came up to another conservative and said, look, I don't think we should be persecuting Andy No because of his sexuality. I don't think he can change that. And Andy has behaved in a completely respectable way. Then they'd say, well, yeah, it's probably not nice to persecute him.
Carl. Duty. Stiff lip intensity.
Thank you very much, Dragon of the West. Yeah, no, I love that that's how Carl is basically framing, you know, the civil rights movement, you know, getting gay acceptance is, it's probably not very nice that we're persecuting Andy. Because that, in his baby brain, in his tiny, fetid little nugget of dog shit that passes for Carl's fucking brain at this point, that makes sense. That's what the whole thing was about. Is like one day we just kind of collectively was like, maybe us like being mean to gay people is not nice. And maybe we should stop being so not nice and we should be nicer. Yeah, I think we should do that. Let's do that. Let's be nicer to the gay. That's why the whole thing happened. No other reason. No other larger philosophical purposes. Nah.
You know, it's probably not right.
Yeah.
You'd have to have an ideological position. Say, well, God says.
Yeah, I'll just say that I have a small... I just have to get this out. I hear that argument all the time and I never get it. Like, I never understand this is his sexuality, this is her sexuality, they can't change it. But even if they could change it, even if somebody could choose who they want to sleep with, who cares? It's like literally nobody's business.
Right. Well, yes, but I mean,
yes, but what? See, this is the thing. There are things about Peter Boghossian that I still very much respect.
It's I don't know if we haven't really got time to get into the much wider conversation of that, because then that logic applies to other people and groups who I think actually are justly suppressed, right?
You know what he's trying to say? Oh, okay. It's a slippery slope. If you start being totally fine and not caring that the gay people might have sex, it's a slippery slope into the big P word. That's great. Nobody, this motherfucker can never, ever again can he defend against like that he is absolutely hardcore far right. Hardcore far right at this point. Like there's no argument. It's over.
Fucking.
It's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
I'm not.
Well, there's currently.
Are you going to the minor attracted persons thing?
Well, that's exactly.
And
because these people say, well, look, I can't change my sexuality either. So, well, that's too bad.
Right.
That's bad. You know.
Well, but the difference in there.
Yeah, because the different. Yeah. Carl, the very, very smart positions. Totally the same fucking thing, right? You idiot.
And that is, there's an empirical, demonstrable harm there.
Oh, I agree.
Whereas if two guys, Andrew Sullivan.
I totally agree with you. But the argument still holds up, right? And so they will make...
Look at Andy No. He has to be uncomfortable with this. He has to. Carl is equating his sexuality to fucking children. That's what he is doing. His friend is equating his sexuality to that depravity. To his face. Right now. Like, oh yeah, it's different because there's no harm. But the argument still holds up. And you can see Andy's having to fucking fight it back, man. Because somewhere underneath all the propaganda, all the bullshit, all the lies, all the fake fucking accents of Andy No, there is a real human being in there. Probably suffering all the time because what he has to do for a living. Like, he still has a sliver of a soul somewhere.
Argument, and the person who's arguing from the doctrine of rights is kind of stuck there, right? So
no, you're right. So there can be no rights without duties.
Exactly,
as is famously said. And I do think that Democrats have failed wholesale in terms of duties, unless they've
Yeah, Peter gave him an out and let him slide from that entire topic. I cannot even believe this shit. You fucking coward, Peter.
Bastardized the concept so much to make certain moral impulses, to classify moral impulses as duties. But I agree with that.
Yeah. And so we're going to have to bring this to a close. But like, this is what I mean when I say that if we have a different way of conceiving of the world, like emotionally, I would be concerned if anyone was like, right, we're going to persecute Andy. Right? It doesn't matter the reason, really. I don't want to see a friend of mine persecuted. So emotionally, I would be concerned about that, not in an abstract...
Do you see this is like damage control happening right here? It's so weird.
...way of, well, a threat to justice somewhere, anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Yeah. It's very abstract. No. I personally am invested in my friend. This is a...
And I think that's...
Fucking cowardly shit, dude. This is cowardly.
Impulse and...
Wow.
The idea that you want to discharge the good, if you will. That impulse is operative.
Poor Coral, slipping down that slope.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, Coral. We all have questioned their gender or sexuality. Maybe, Coral, you're a secret bear.
Maybe. I don't know, man. I don't know. Yeah, let's give it a couple more minutes. They're almost done.
Live in the kernel of all wokeness. The problem is that it goes from the kernel of wokeness to protect homosexuals to crazy town, right? And with no clear lines of demarcation.
So we should just not try? We should just not do any of it? Is that what you're trying to say? I mean, like, look, the thing is, in a broader philosophical concept, sure, the idea of just allowing anything is a terrible idea. Yeah, sure, of course. Yeah, that's libertarianism to like its extreme degree. Not like sane libertarianism, but like wing nutty fuckers, right? Like, I get that. I get what you're trying to say. But we're talking about two very specific parameters right here and drawing a direct line between them. That's what Carl did. Being gay and map stuff, okay? That's the line that he drew. This is not an esoteric philosophical question that we're analyzing right here. We're analyzing two specific points, which is a fucking accusation by Carl in front of somebody that it actually affects. But Peter's just going to try and brush it past. Yeah, well, in the large concept.
I think it's the concept of liberty. It's the liberation of it.
Yeah, and I'll add one more thing to that. Something that I think is extremely important, at least in my intellectual life and the work I do, is it's cognitive liberty. Like, if somebody hates, my kids are gay, if someone hates my kids for who they are, they hate my kids for who they are, right? And so the solution to that, or if someone hates Andy for who he is not to tell people who they can hate or who they can love. It's you can't act upon that, right? We have to make laws that, endanger people or, physical violence against someone. But there's a kind of concept creep now that I find really disturbing, and that we have people who are convinced that they have the right answers to moral questions, and they want to tell other people not just how to live, but how to think. And I think that there's something particularly pernicious to our democracy when those people take over our institutions.
I agree.
That's you! Bitch, the call is coming from inside the house. I swear to God, it's so crazy. Oh my God. No. Look, anybody who can sit there and be like totally fine with Ron DeSantis, like, enacting these draconian authoritarian laws. I mean, nah, dude, just shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. You're telling on yourself. All right. Yeah. To wrap this little segment up, though, liar, and like straight up, Carl at this point is as far right as you can get without fucking Zig Heiling and talking about the JQ or racial IQ. Although he has had people talk about racial IQ on his channel. I'm sure none of you are shocked. Yeah, all three are now fucking worthless, propagandists, soulless. They stand for fucking nothing. Fuck them. Fuck all three. Fuck them.